Paul Newman has loved the richness and complexity of automobile racing since he first began to race and win 12 years ago. Today, he not only drives, he is the co-owner of a team which races Indianapolis cars. Paul's driver, none other than Mario Andretti. Paul and Mario, mutual admiration, real friendship. In this season, they would go after the IndyCar Championship, the most important title to be won in American racing. Jim Fitzgerald would seek a championship too, for sports cars. 3 men and a summer of action. The spirit of racing is embodied in the driving career of Paul Newman. His fame as a movie actor often obscures the fact that he shares with other top drivers the essential mental and physical characteristics that it takes to win. His road to success in racing began later than most. He was 47 when he drove his first race. But his reasons for wanting to race were the same as any of us getting into the game. The exhilaration of controlling a car at full speed, the need to compete, the chance to stretch one's own personal limits. As most beginners do, Paul started with smallish, low-powered cars, racing in amateur classes. Incidents like this, a chain reaction crash, which he coolly slipped his Nissan through unscathed and went on to win, demonstrated a natural talent, not to mention an instinct for survival. Although publicly modest about his abilities, in fact, he had that same bright flame of self-confidence that is given to all who are good at this sport, and it wasn't long before he was handling much faster cars. He also had a sense for being with the right team. Newman's car owner, Bob Sharp, a former champion himself, was both an effective coach and a man who saw to it that Paul had the best cars and mechanics. Sharp's red, white, and blue Nissans, with Newman at the wheel, were the focal point wherever they raced. By 1979, winning was a habit. Going into the final race of the year, the team had won 14 races and 17 starts. And then at Road Atlanta, they won again. And this time it was sweet indeed, the national championship. It was time to move up to professional racing. And Sharp's response was to go all the way, to have his team build for Newman a car which would compete against the fastest sports cars in the world. It was turbocharged and had a top speed of over 200 miles an hour. In it, Paul came to final maturity as a driver. Cars like this are only for drivers who rarely, if ever, make mistakes. Quite frankly, they are also only for those who have faced the fact that racing is dangerous and can confront that risk with an extraordinary degree of psychological control. To those who really understood racing, Paul was emerging as a man as tough as any character he had ever played in the movies. Today, his apprenticeship is solidly behind him. He is a touring pro, experienced, a man hard to surprise, as comfortable in the company of other drivers as they are in his company. He is particularly relaxed with Jim Fitzgerald, whom he has known since his early racing years. The two men share a love of popcorn, of practical jokes, and an anonymous brand of white lightning that Fitzy smuggles out of the Carolina mountains.
First lap when I went out, we were going to start getting some understeer, but we didn't. Good.
As a driver, can I have your autograph?
Between races, Fitzy teaches racing. Racing is literally his life, and he has enormous talent for what he does. This year, Sharp has hired him to drive his team's Nissan cars, both in professional races with Paul and in a series of amateur races that will lead to the Sports Car Club of America's National Championship race at Road Atlanta later in the year. One of the tracks upon which Fitzy would compete was Watkins Glen, the birthplace of road racing in the years following World War II. In those days, they used public roads for the day, and part of the track ran right through town. This is downtown Watkins Glen, still very much the way it used to be 35 years ago. Franklin Street here was the old main straightaway. The pits were just over there, and the start-finish line a couple of blocks further down. As a race driver and race fan, I've seen the sport change in many ways in the years since it first began. Of course, one obvious change is we no longer race on public streets. As the speeds of the racing cars increased, it was no longer safe. It made sense to construct special courses for racing only. At Watkins Glen, a site was chosen on a wind-swept hill 3 miles from town. A great track, and it was a great start for Fitzy and his Nissan as he led briefly, then dropped to second behind the yellow Triumph of another racing veteran, Ken Slagle. Any driver racing at Watkins Glen feels the weight of the track's rich 35-year history and knows he is racing literally in the wheel tracks of the legends of the sport. Fitzy on this day was flying, but so was Slagle, until the pace got to his car. Slagle's breakdown came so close to the end of the race that Fitzy barely had time to savor the sensation of a commanding lead, and then he was taking the checkered flag. He was chatting with Bob Sharp in the winner's circle when I arrived from where I'd watched the race.
Hey, Sam. How are
So,
you?
congratulations. How was it?
Nice.
How does it feel to win?
Real nice. Just can't beat it. There's nothing like it.
And the car?
The car was just fine. You know, the brakes got a little warm, and I just backed it off, and it had a few extra pops in it. It was like on railroad tracks.
It was a cool, overcast day at the track called Road Atlanta. This was the day the Sports Car Club of America's national championship would be decided in a single winner-take-all event, which Jim Fitzgerald had qualified for earlier with wins such as the one we saw at Watkins Glen. Sharing the front row with Fitzy in the Nissan was his old adversary, Ken Slagle, again driving his Triumph.
We came down, and I said, now, because Ken got a little run on me. Turbo just came on like gangbusters, and we got a run on him. So as we came into turn one, I moved over to the right so nobody like Jerry Hansen wouldn't come under me. So once I started up the hill and down through the S's, I ran from them. And then as I got onto the back stretch and looked in the rearview mirror and saw I had a nice little bit of a lead, I said, boy, did those guys do a nice job on this car and is it handling. So as the race progressed, we were getting a comfortable lead. It would narrow a little bit here and there, and then it would lengthen itself as we got through traffic. But on the horizon, you were seeing these ominous clouds, black, heavy. So I was praying, oh God, don't let it rain. So I come out of turn 5, which is an uphill left and down, and there's a very light mist. So I reach over and pop the wipers on and find it cleared off. It wasn't very heavy. Make one more lap, come up over the same hill, which was perfectly dry before. We go down about 100 yards, and all at once.
All at once, Jim Fitzgerald had his hands full. Rain pouring onto the track, no grip for the tires. Fitzy, then car after car behind him, shot off the road into the guardrail. Hansen, Slagle, a dozen drivers crashed. Miraculously, none were seriously hurt. The officials stopped the race. When this happens, the rules stipulate that the winner becomes the man who was leading as the last lap began. Fittingly, Jim Fitzgerald was declared national champion.
When you make it go well, then everybody rejoices. Everybody's happy. It's you know, you hear that tried and true team effort. It is a team effort. There's no other way you can do it.
There was another small American town which caught the racing fever in the post-war era, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. They raced right down Main Street, then out into the countryside and around the lake for which the town was named. It was midsummer, and Paul's race started in the full heat of the day. This was Trans Am racing, a professional series of 16 races held at tracks all across the U.S. and in Canada. Corvettes, Capris, Camaros, Firebirds, and the Nissan Turbo ZXs of Newman and Fitzgerald. These were the quickest road racing sedans in the country, driven by top professionals. The Trans Am, Paul loves it.
I think it's the best road racing series in the United States. I think it's got the most depth. I had to make a choice when I went from amateurs to professional racing, whether I wanted to be a big fish in a little pond or a little fish in a big pond. And I work harder and drive harder and feel better.
Paul was running third in the early going, then second.
That's an interesting course because it's not only a power course, but there are still 14 turns in it, uphill and downhill.
Does a racer get tense at moments like these, when things are going well and there seems to be so much to lose? Not Paul.
I think the important thing is to go out there and not care. That's when I seem to go the fastest.
He's such a strong individual, strong will, and from that standpoint is an inspiration, obviously. And you can't put in the back of your mind that he's just an average human being. He's not. And we've become very good friends. I think we're truly good friends. And he, of course, is a boss, and me working for him, I couldn't find a better arrangement.
For Paul and Mario, the Las Vegas race was a climax of sorts for their relationship of car owner and driver. They were in contention for the Indy Car Championship, and this race, the last race of the year, would be the decider. The situation was this. Mario held a small points lead over former Indy winner Tom Sneva. If Sneva won here, Mario would have to finish in the top 10 to clinch the title. For Mario, a cautious approach was indicated, and from the outset, he did his best to stay out of other people's way. He hates racing like this. Mario, and I think this is the reason he and Paul get on so well, likes to go for it. He had won 6 of the 15 IndyCar races so far this year, and tiptoeing around was hardly his style. If Sneva had dropped out, Mario could have opened up, certain of the championship, but Sneva was having a great day, leading the race, and as long as he kept that lead, Mario had to finish. There were spins, crashes, but nothing affected Sneva. He was a sort of implacable adversary that Paul and Robert Redford faced in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Certainly Mario didn't need this championship to confirm his greatness as a driver, but he had been the points leader throughout most of the long summer of racing, and to let the championship slip through his fingers now, at the last moment, but Mario wasn't going to let that happen. Sneva won the race, but Mario finished second and took the championship. In the pits, the atmosphere was one of relief as well as celebration, as Paul embraced the co-owner of the team, Carl Haas. I spoke to Mario as the new champion stepped from his car.
How does it feel now that you've done it?
Oh, what a relief. What a relief it is.
Listen,
honestly,
you've won so much. You've achieved so many of your goals. Do you have any goals left in racing?
well, just go after it again next year. It feels too good.
I bet it does. Congratulations.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you.
So, Mario had had another vintage year. So had Paul. So had Fitzy. 3 so very different men, confident of each other's abilities, urged on by each other's successes, enjoying each other's company. Theirs is a love of driving fast, something they do each in his own style, each so very well.